It definitely took a minute for me to process everything. I kind of sat back and realized the significance of almost losing my life.
After his brush with death, this 20-year-old college student in Southern California has a dire warning.
Everyone thinks that, oh, it's not going to happen to me. How could it be me? But, you know, it's when you start becoming careless like that it can be you.
On a Friday night last month near his college campus, like many young adults his age, he went to a party.
It was like just towards the beginning, my friend and I were like, you know, hey, we should try this drug. A terrible decision.
Did it come from a place that you trusted, someone you knew? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's just like how any other college student gets a hand of this. It's like you either through a friend or you get a contact from someone else, word spreads throughout the grapevine. I mean, it really becomes accessible anywhere you go.
Charlie, who asked us to not use his real name, thought he was taking a common party drug, but the drug brought him crashing down.
You took the drug, and then what happens?
Well, I went to one of the rooms and then my friend walked in. He started talking to me and he said, hey, you know, how you doing? Are you excited for the rest of tonight? And I just kind of looked back at him and I said, you know, I don't feel so good right now. And that's, I think, what immediately raised concern. And I believe I passed out like right after that.
He was near death, minutes away from becoming a grim statistic, one of the growing number of young people who have unwittingly ingested drugs laced with the deadly synthetic opioid fentanyl, 50 times more powerful than heroin.
You could have lost your life.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's many other students across the country who have lost their lives.
It's a crisis of epic proportions. Drug users who think they are buying prescription pills like Vicodin, Percocet, Oxy, or even Adderall, but the pills are fake and often contain fentanyl.
We are now in the worst overdose epidemic in United States history.
He was on the floor in the bathroom, not breathing.
There are so many casualties, and all of it is so preventable.
According to the CDC, fentanyl was the leading cause for the record number of drug poisonings and overdose deaths in America last year. More than 71,000 deaths were linked to synthetic opioids like fentanyl.
What drugs did they take? What drugs? Fentanyl?
In just the past 36 hours, officers in Las Vegas responded to at least 4 deaths that they say are connected to fentanyl. Meanwhile, the opioid continues to flood the illicit drug market. Last week, police in Phoenix, Arizona seized more than 1 million fentanyl pills while executing a search warrant. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration also announcing today that agents have seized a historic amount of fentanyl since May.
We seized over 10 million fake pills and 982 pounds of fentanyl powder across all 50 states. That is enough to kill 36 million Americans.
Officials pointing the finger squarely at the Mexican drug cartels for trafficking the pills across our borders.
These cartels are responsible for virtually all of the fentanyl, and they currently dominate the worldwide fentanyl distribution and supply chain.
The avenue for dispensing these drugs? Social media. The DEA saying nearly 130 investigations are linked to social media platforms like Snapchat, where buying drugs is as easy as sending the right emoji to a so-called plug, a dealer who finds customers on these apps. In a statement released by Snapchat, the company says it's proactively detecting illicit drug content and shutting down drug dealers who abuse our platform and partnering with expert organizations to educate Snapchatters about the horrific dangers of fentanyl. And a growing hurdle for authorities, brightly colored rainbow fentanyl pills that are otherwise similar to any other fentanyl pill being seized in at least 20 states since February.
Psychologically, looking at something that is nice in color, a person right away doesn't think, okay, this can kill me. They think, okay, let me take this and, have a good time.
We spoke with 2 gang and narcotic detectives with the LAPD. They're both in shadow because of their undercover work.
Every socioeconomic type is affected also, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're just the average Joe or a celebrity or an athlete. We're all affected with fentanyl overdoses.
They are now urging residents in the LA area who suspect their drugs are laced or replaced with fentanyl to turn them into the station.
You don't necessarily have to tell them that you purchased for the reason of you were going to use it, but I would encourage somebody to turn in those pills and maybe get a narcotic investigator to follow up and try to get that dealer.
Families who've been impacted by the crisis now desperate for solutions.
There's got to be other means and other ways that we're educating our children, and in a very, very serious way. Not just don't do drugs. We tried that.
Laura Brinker and Matt White lost their 17-year-old son Connor White to fentanyl poisoning in May of last year.
We thought it was a Percocet. It was a blue pill with M30 on it.
There was not a dozen pills in a bag. It was one pill that was taken.
Connor was an honors student at the San Diego High School, where Matt is a teacher.
It was around 9:45, and he was supposed to be in my class, and he wasn't there. We live, like literally 4 minutes from campus, and I saw his car in front of the house. I went into the bathroom, and he was on the floor in the bathroom, not breathing, and I immediately called 911 and started with CPR. It was too late.
I asked if I could just give him one more hug, and they said, no, you can't touch your son. After that, he was taken away.
Over the past few weeks, 9 students overdosed on fentanyl. That has been reported to us. 1 died. That's just unacceptable anywhere in today's America.
Alberto Calvallo knows the struggle to find solutions all too well as the superintendent of the LA School District.
And you said it's only the tip of the iceberg. What do you think the real problem looks like?
I cannot quantify it, but I can tell you it's much bigger, much more disturbing than what's reported.
2 weeks ago, a tragedy at one of his high schools.
These are not overdoses. These are people who have been poisoned. 1 pill can kill.
15-year-old Melanie Ramos was found dead on the floor of the girls' bathroom after hours. The cause? Fentanyl poisoning.
Una tristeza y una pérdida.
Police arrested a 15-year-old boy in connection with Melanie's death. He stands accused of selling her the fentanyl-laced pill and faces a possible manslaughter charge.
The community felt Melanie, and this epidemic is far more deadly than many of us understand it to be. It is a silent killer.
Carvalho is not taking any chances if it can save even one life.
This is not unique to Los Angeles. It is a national scourge. But there's something we can do about this issue in our community.
Just days after Melanie's death, he announced that naloxone, more commonly known as Narcan, a medicine used to reverse the effects of an opioid overdose, would soon be available at all K-12 schools across the district. Nurses and other staff at all 1,400 campuses will also be trained in administering this life-saving medicine.
So nurses, they are used to dealing with scrapes and bruises, with kids and allergies, with COVID. Are we now expecting nurses to also administer drugs for, toxic poisonings?
It's a sad new reality, but consider the alternative. I think the presence of Narcan in our schools is a life-saving necessity at this point.
Charlie knows he's one of the lucky survivors. In the midst of his overdose last month, a quick-thinking friend called for help and swiftly administered Narcan.
Thank God that I was surrounded with the people that were there. Thank God my friends were there, and thank God that I have smart friends,
He's also thankful for a youth-led organization called TACO, which aims to combat drug overdose deaths among young adults. He says they saved his life.
Without them, I don't think anyone around me would have had any knowledge of how to administer Narcan or have access to Narcan in the first place.
He is alive today because we were able to educate his friends around him so that when he did overdose, they were prepared to respond.
In addition to educating their fellow students on the hazards of accidental fentanyl consumption, Madeline Hilliard and her taco team have provided tens of thousands of test strips that indicate when drugs contain fentanyl.
They're not 100% effective, but they are highly effective from what we've seen.
Yeah, why are so many people concerned about these test strips?
People do have the perception that if you're giving people fentanyl test strips that you're encouraging them to use drugs. But what we see is when people use fentanyl test strips, immediately they're now aware that fentanyl is a risk. So please proceed with caution, test your drugs, don't use alone, and carry Narcan.
It's inevitable that college students are going to come across these drugs. It's just becoming more and more integrated into drugs across the country.
But for Charlie, his near-death experience has him swearing off drugs entirely.
What have your conversations been like with your loved ones and friends?
Yeah, I mean, I've just been telling my friends, you know, don't do any drugs, and if you really do feel inclined to do so, please test it. I mean, without being given Narcan, without being given access to Taco or any of these other resources, I wouldn't be here right now to share my story, and I don't want that to happen to anyone else.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.